So take a look at this. This is a tweet done up by Mario Nafal um, in relation to the UK's crackdown of free speech in regards to the riots that are happening over there. Just how horrific what's happening in England, and it is horrific. We showed coverage of the one gentleman getting arrested for a simple Facebook post. Like, this is the world that we're coming to, folks, and it's spreading like wildfire. And Joe Rogan has a lot to say about this because it was mentioned on a recent podcast episode. And Joe Rogan relates what's happening in England to another time of history where we did not learn from their mistakes, and instead just repeated it. So listen to this.
Terrible government overreach. You're seeing it now in England where people are getting arrested for tweets. Yeah. Well, England, people talk about Soviet Russia, like how bad Russia is in terms of cracking down on thought police and cracking down on bad tweets and things like that. I think the statistics are, I think England I think there's something like 4,000 people have been arrested in England for thought crimes where they've said things online that people find to be a hateful thing or a problematic thing. And I think it's only 200 in Russia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe in Russia they're too scared to do it at all.
Could be. Yeah. But the fact that they're comfortable with finding people who've said something that they disagree with and putting them in a fucking cage in England in 2024 is really wild.
Yeah.
The other amazing part about this is that, at least in the Soviet Union days of Russia, they knew when their government was crossing a line. The people revolted against it, and that's how the Soviet Union collapsed. Was people had enough of this. They saw what was happening. But there's still a lot of people in the UK that have seen this statistic. They're seeing what's happening to their own citizens, and they're just fine and dandy with it. Because, it's getting rid of the hate speech. It's getting rid of the content that I didn't want to see in the first place. I don't like, mean ideas. I don't mean contradiction. I don't want, I don't want discussion. I don't want disclosure. I just want to read nice things. I want sunshine and unicorns and rainbows done to you by authoritarians. It's really unbelievable. Unbelievable that England used to fight against Nazi Germany that was accused of doing this. But now it turns out they became the Nazis. What an ironic twist. UK went against the German brigade and the Third Reich of Adolf Hitler, and now they're doing stuff that even Adolf Hitler would look at this and go, wow, this is too far.
Especially they're saying you get arrested just for retweeting something.
The offence of incitement to racial hatred involves publishing or distributing material which is insulting or abusive, which is intended to or likely to start racial hatred. So if you retweet that, then you're republishing that, and then potentially you're committing that offence.
So I'm assuming this is one of the ministers in UK that's announcing this on UK television, stating that you publish anything, you retweet anything, you even mention any of this in any context within the online world, you are potentially committing a crime, according to them, and they need to arrest you. Again, how has this allowed to occur? And as Joe Rogan said, you're looking at the statistics, it's worse in England. It's worse now than it was in the days of the Soviet Empire or Nazi Germany. And the sad part is we didn't actually defeat any of the fascist, oligarch. We didn't defeat fascism during those wars. We just rebranded it. We took Nazis from the German days and get them into corporations over here during Operation Paperclip. So we allowed this to happen. We allowed this to happen for so many years. And now here we are. And there's people out there that are okay with this. There's people okay with arresting and jailing people for not having compliance in their thoughts and opinions to these heinous oligarchs that you're seeing right in front of you. This prick, even though he sounds like Shakespeare, is an evil authoritarian. This is like, Lord Voldemort. Terrible. Far beyond Lord Voldemort. Unbelievable.
And we do have dedicated police officers who are scouring social media. Their job is to look for this material and then follow.
They have dedicated officers to hunt you down on social media. And you wonder why the crime rate in the UK is skyrocketing. Because while you're telling officers to be the Karens and Kens of online speech, you have shoplifters, muggers, rapists, murderers getting away with this because you're not actually going to stop crime. That people are pointing out on social media, and then you're arresting people for pointing that out. This is barbaric by any means. And this is coming from the land of, Shakespeare and marmalade and tea and Paddington Bear. So it's okay, right? It's okay because it's not the Soviet days. Russia had horrible policies, but in the UK, it's fine. It's fine because it's all, correct speech. It's political correctness. We don't want to talk about things. We don't want to discuss, tough subjects within the country. We don't want to do that.
With identification arrests and so forth. So it's a really, really serious. People might think they're not doing anything harmful. They are, and the consequences will be visited upon them.
And here's the problem with that. Even if you say, yeah, well, people shouldn't tweet hateful things. I agree. They shouldn't. But who's to decide what is a hateful thing?
That's the problem.
That's the problem. It's very subjective.
And it still shouldn't be a crime.
And that is something that I've argued with people since we mentioned about censorship, since we mentioned about any of this. Because there's still people out there that are still, attacking me because I'm allowing people to express things online. And what if it's hateful? What if it's, a violent rhetoric? What if it's directed to someone and then something happens? You're not going to blame the person that posted something? No. Simple answer is no. Because on the principle level, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to track down people's freedom of speech and do this cookie cutter measure to say that everyone has, equal opportunity, everyone has inclusion, everyone has the ability to exercise the right of free speech, but then try to cookie cutter it so that certain content is away from the general public. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to like what they say. You don't even have to read any of it. But why is their rights and their liberties any different from you? That's what I tell people. I'm not a huge fan of Alex Jones. I don't, pretty much like it. Or Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro would be a better example. Ben Shapiro. I dislike a lot of his policies. But you know what? Why does his rights differ than mine? Why does he, have to be silenced out? Or why do I have to be silenced out? It's a principle rule. And if there is someone making violent rhetoric or projecting something that could lead to a potential crime, there's already laws in place for it. There's already laws in place for it. If someone's deliberately harassing you, there's already a law in place. There's already court measures. There's already jurisdictions to prevent that. There's already measures in place. You don't need to go this extra level. But they do this to try to trick people to say that this is helping you. This is some sort of security measure when really This is them dictating over society. Because when you dictate over information, you control over society. You control people's opinions. You control people's narratives. You control people's lives. And this is how they're doing it. Because now people have the fear of being arrested and sent to prison in the UK if they express the wrong idea, if they do wrong thing. That is how barbaric this is.
And in our lifetime, we've seen that get moved, right? So it used to be if a guy thought he was a woman and his name was Doug, and you grew up with Doug, and all of a sudden Doug wants to be called Debbie, if you call him Doug, it's no big deal. Like, yeah, maybe you're being rude to call him Doug, but it's not a hate crime, okay? Right. Well, now a lot of people think it's a hate crime, and that got you banned from Twitter for life. So if you dead named someone on the old Twitter, you were banned for life. Dead name, not even making up a name. You can call him an idiot. You can call someone an idiot. Okay, forget about a man in a dress. Maybe that's a problem. But if you call like a regular guy an idiot, you stupid fuck, fine, no problem. But if you call Doug, you will get banned for life. Okay, that's the new hate speech. That's crazy. Now, if that keeps going, that didn't exist before. If that keeps going, maybe you can go to jail for calling him Doug. Maybe they think it's okay to put you in jail because you violated their hate speech laws.
Unbelievable. And just so much of this doesn't get presented. Like they're not mentioning this anywhere in the Western media. None of this is being mentioned on, any U.S. television station or Canadian television station. Even though it's happening in our front doors too. We have similar laws. We have certain restrictions that are happening right now. And if nothing gets addressed and nothing gets challenged and nothing gets, if we don't sit down and realize the potential red flags that this incurs, it's going to get a lot worse. We're going to become the next UK if we don't do something about this. And right now in the UK, they're already making threats to go after our citizens. Again, it's amazing how once upon a time, these people fought against the Nazis, fought against people like Adolf Hitler, then said it was the most awful regime that ever existed, that he wanted to control the world, he wanted to jail people for wrong thinking. It was always German first, German this. And now how the tables have turned. Because UK police commissioner threatens to extradite jail US citizens over online posts. Will come after you. You know who says that? Evil criminals, supervillains, people in comic books. This is, I don't know what else to say. I really don't know what else to say. Being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law, the police commissioner warned. This is the UK police commissioner telling the rest of the world, hey, get into line or we're coming after you. And again, we were always told that it was Germany in the 1930s and 40s that was the horrific time. Here we are in 2024 replaying history. This is the reboot of the Third Reich. And here is a bit of the coverage here. This is from the Sky News report. And here's the police commissioner threatening the rest of the world to get into line with their thoughts. Listen to this.
We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you.
Because we have seen some high-profile figures whipping up the hatred. You talked about it in there with the officers, in fact, about this being added to by online commentary. I mean, I'm even thinking of the likes of Elon Musk getting involved. What are you considering when it comes to dealing with people who are whipping up this kind of behaviour from behind a keyboard, maybe in a different country?
Being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law. You can be guilty of offences of incitement, of stirring up racial hatred, There are numerous terrorist offences regarding the sort of publishing of material. All of those offences are in play.
He just said there's terrorist offenses for posting things online. You and I know that because of megalomaniacs like this guy, like people in government, like people that have leadership roles right now, don't actually define the means of terrorism, don't actually have a substantial definition when it comes to what a terrorist is. I know the definition of it because I know the original definition is to enact a physical form of violence towards someone or to a group of people, enacting some sort of political or religious measure. But now, because they have stretched the jurisdiction, they have stretched the legislation to now call anybody a terrorist, regardless of the situation. You are now just deemed a terrorist, regardless of it is. You don't get a due process. You don't get trials. You don't get any measures being a citizen. They can just restrict all your rights the minute they point the finger at you and say you're enacting terror. And that is what's happening across the world, folks, if we allow this to continue on. And all they have to do is just say you're a terrorist, and they can just lock you away regardless of what it is. You can be an eco-terrorist. You can be, if anyone was protesting during Occupy Wall Street, you're a financial terrorist. You're hurting the economy. And this is the UK police commissioner threatening the world, not just his own citizens. They've already done that. But now threatening the world that they need to get into line with this authoritarian government. It literally, it's stifling that the UK, it's like worse than a monarchy. We might as well go back to, the kings and queens days. We might as well go back to medieval periods where they used to boil people if they talked funny or did something out of normal for their kingdom. Might as well go back to that day. Might as well go back to witch burnings, for God's sakes. If we're going down this path. Anyway, I think there's a bit more to this.
If people are provoking hatred and violence on the streets, and we'll come after those individuals just as we will physically confront on the streets the thugs and the obs who are causing the problems for communities.
I hate when this does this. So it says the Crown. Okay, I don't know if people can read this, but I'll just say it just says the Crown Prosecution Service posted a warning to social media platform X on Wednesday, warning citizens to think before you post amid ongoing riots that have fractured the country's policy. Think before you post. How about we say that to you? Why is it you getting to dictate our opinions, our ideals, our morals, our values, when you guys yourselves don't even think when enacting these policies? How about think before you govern? Maybe we should put that on something. Make that a t-shirt. Think how insane it is and barbaric this is, that all the years that people have been fighting wars over, your grandparents, your ancestors have fought and slaughtered people to protect the freedoms and liberties that we're practicing today, that now is being overthrown by authoritarian dictators and wannabes like this guy. That's now telling the world to smart up or shut up. Because people might read things online. They might see different opinions. They might know what is going on in their worlds. Listen, folks, this has been a long, steady battle. It will continue to be a long, steady battle. It's one of the longest battles in history. It's censorship. And it is something that I have fought tooth and nail for this, not just as a content creator, but just as a person, as a genuine human being, that we have a principle when it comes to protecting free speech. And if we don't have that principle, we don't have free speech, and we live in a basically dark period of time. And basically, we are ruled by authoritarian aristocrats, and we are the peasants that are out of the loop, and they want to keep us dumb. They don't want us to be informed. And that is the darkest age of society. And that pretty much diminishes our entire nations. We don't thrive. We don't evolve through censorship. We do worse. And that's what's happening right now. We're doing worse with these censorship tactics than we are thriving. There's no good moment in history that proves that censorship works. It always does worse for humanity. But this guy doesn't even care. So maybe you should think before you speak. Maybe you should think before you dictate, before you threaten the rest of the world. Maybe you should think about that instead of trying to control other people's minds, instead of trying to dictate on what is to be said on social media. Hence, the whole point of social media is allowing people to be social, regardless of their opinions, regardless of whether you agree with something or not. The whole genuine purpose is to allow people to communicate. And if you don't have that, then you might as well not have the internet. You might as well not have social media. You might as well just be born with muzzles. Which I don't want to give them ideas, because that may be the next step in their outrageous, barbaric crimes. But just absolutely crazy. And the fact that it's worse than the days of the Soviet Union and Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin and Mussolini combined. Wow. Does that say a lot?